Hello, welcome to our presentation on how handedness is developed. We will be looking at the difference between nature and nurture when developing left-handedness in children. I'm Jacob. I'm with Brady and Janae. So our research question is, Dominic is left-handed. He would like to know if his infant son is likely to be left-handed or right-handed. What can you tell him about the roles of nature and nurture and handedness? To start off, I'll be defining nature versus nurture. Nature is hereditary information we receive from our parents at the moment of conception, according to Burke, 2018. This means that nature is your genetics. They can't be changed. Examples of this are height, skin color, hair color, anything that's inserted into your DNA. As for nurture, these are complex forces of the physical and social world that influence our biological makeup and psychological experiences before and after birth, according to Burke, 2018. This means that nurture is our outside influences that are experiences that change outcomes. Examples can be fetal alcohol syndrome, personality disorders, and social development. These are all things that happen after birth or are outside influences that affect our birth.
So the theory that we related to this is Piaget's sensory motor stage of cognitive development. This stage occurs from birth to 2 years of age. And this stage is defined by infants think by acting on the world with their eyes, hands, nose, and mouth. By 6 months is kind of when infants become more efficient with one hand or the other. And by the end of their first year, they've kind of chosen which hand is their dominant. So some statistics, this is from an article in 2021 on a study that was done to find out how many left-handed people there are in the world. And left-handed people make up approximately 10% of the population, meaning right people, obviously 90%. Out of the world, this is 12% compared to the United States. The United States has the second highest rate of left-handed people. So yeah. Handedness in school. Left-handed kids overall score lower on most IQ tests and 1% lower on just average tests. Normal layout of a test in schools have questions on the left and answers on the right, and this makes left-handed kids have to shift their hand and their arm for each question, which can actually be shown to break their concentration. And only 10% of left-handed students have received actual guidance or help with reading, writing, and other things that they struggle with. So some interesting left-handed facts. Left-handed people often excel at sports because the other team doesn't expect it, because right-handed is obviously more common. They are more likely to have allergies, sleep deprivation. They are better at multitasking. They can actually recover from strokes faster because most strokes occur in the left hemisphere of the brain, and left-handed people function mostly in their right hemisphere. And then 5 of 9 of the most recent presidents were left-handed, including Barack Obama. And some people have an actual fear of left-handed people. This is called sinisterphobia.
All right, so some of the pros or advantages of being left-handed, like stated before, they tend to be ahead in sports because it's not really common. Better adaptability, because when the vast majority of the people are right-handed, you have to learn how to really have to work in their world, so that often leaves you always shifting and and adapting to what other people's strong suits. Top in driving lessons, this is another one, higher prodigy percentages, more creativity since the left, they're using a different part of the brain more. So left people tend to be more creative. And another interesting factor is that they're also better recovery after a stroke. Even some more pros that are continued, better memory. And here's another interesting one for men who are left-handed, higher income and better in video games. And also like with the whole creativity thing, they have left-handed people are often good at thinking outside the box, thinking differently than what most other people would think. So some of the cons, more worried about making mistakes. Studies show that left-handed people are more meticulous, quicker to anger due to an imbalance of processing emotions. And also left-handed people have been observed to have a chemical imbalance. So some of the alternatives, like for kids who are left-handed growing up in, like the statistics before, in a dominant or in a right-hand dominant environment. First off, don't single them out. It's not something that, it's not a shame thing at all. This won't help them at all improve in any way if you just, shame them. Consider like some of the way, in realizing this, you'll have to have some adjustments, and some of the alternatives. One of them could be the seating arrangements in a room. Since they're left-handed, if you're sitting next to your friend, if you're left-handed and you're sitting next to your friend who's right-handed, you'll probably you're writing with your left and your friend's writing with his right, you'll probably bump into probably will bump arms a lot. So, as a teacher, maybe sit your left-handed student at the end of the table to make it more convenient for them. And also, like I said, since it's statistically, it's mostly right-handed people in the world. So, help them work with tools that are for right-handed people. Now, I'm not saying that they have to, completely shift over, but, to make it easier on them, it's good for them to also learn how to work with right-handed tools. An example of this would be a 3-ring binder. So when they write in a 3-ring binder for righties, it's, you're writing away, so you don't have to worry about hitting the rings of your binder. But when you're a lefty, when you write, your arms will be intertwined awkwardly. So you just have to teach them just to take the paper out every time, and they'll have to write it and then put it back in. Another would be making a worksheet that best fits for them. So for like example, for right-handed people, like let's say you have like a math worksheet, and there's a little answer key or something. It would be normally on the left, and they would work on the right, because you're right-handed, so you're working on the right. But for left people, well, I mean, it's reverse. So maybe, consider making a worksheet, a special worksheet just for them, where you switch it so they don't have to, write where the spreadsheet is. Maybe bring a special pair of scissors, for them would be another way to adjust. And also for writing, here's a major one, is for writing. And for writing, maybe because they don't want to write maybe from the right of the page to the left of the page, just have them get used to writing from left to right. So just put a dot where they're supposed to start, and then just have them, I know it'll be hard for them, but just have them start where they need to start, so it just becomes habit. And finally, because they will be using computers a lot as they grow up, adjusting the mouse button for them. So instead of when you right click, for us it's normal, but for them it won't be. So just adjust the mouse for them as well.
So now that we've looked at some of the statistics and some of the real world implications of left-handedness. We can finally address the question of how much is handedness affected by nature versus nurture. So on the nature side, handedness is caused by genes. So according to Claire Porak, a professor of psychology at Penn State Erie campus, humans are born with two genes for handedness, either dextral or chance. The dominant dextral gene induces right-handedness whenever it turns up. The chance genes leaves the decision to, well, chance. It takes a pair of the latter to make a pair left-handed. So a minority of people are born with the chance gene. So to kind of clarify this, if the dextral gene, if there's two of the genes, then that person is guaranteed to be right-handed. If the chance gene makes an appearance, it leaves a 50-50 chance of a person to be left-handed. And if they are born with both of the chance genes, then they are almost guaranteed to be left-handed. And obviously the pair of the chance genes is extremely rare. So left-handed parents are more likely to have left-handed children, although left-handed parents' children are more likely to be right-handed than left-handed. So being a left-handed parent, the likelihood of your child being left-handed is not more than being right-handed. And so your handedness doesn't have a huge effect on the handedness of your child.
So the reason that this left-handedness occurs has to do with brain lateralization. Lateralization is described as a function or activity that is localized in one side of the body rather than the other. So our brain is lateralized, and the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere both function differently, except for in people with that are left-handed. Left-handed brains tend to have less lateralization, and this means that they use both halves of their brain in tasks like facial recognition and language. So right-handed people have their language housed in the right side of their brain, which is shown in the bottom image. Only one side of their brain lights up when they are processing language or speaking. In the left-handed brain, both sides of the brain light up because they use both halves of their brain when they go to process language. This has to do with why left-handed people are normally more creative, because their language is housed in the more creative side of their brain.
So when looking at handedness through nurture, handedness can definitely be influenced through nurture. It has been found through studies that handedness can be switched. It's easier for left-handed people to switch handedness, but switching handedness can take between months and years to perfect. So switching handedness after having mastered a hand is not easy. Examples of reasons you would switch handedness include injury, birth difficulties, sports, and convenience. And convenience has to do with if you find being left-handed or right-handed gives you an advantage, then people will switch that way. Also, when looking at the brain and lateralization, when the brain is injured and the side of the brain that affects your handedness, if you're right-handed, is either taken out or crippled due to an injury, then the rest of your brain starts to work in order to be able to use your left hand. And so lateralization starts to take effect then. So when it comes to answering the question, how much is handedness affected by nature versus nurture? Handedness is defined by genetics, but it can be influenced through nurture. So the chance gene does leave room for influence. And as Burke says, this suggests a genetic bias favoring right-handedness that experiences can overcome. So even when people are born with their dextral or right-handed genes, experiences can always overcome the genetic or nature side of handedness. So to answer the research question for Dominic, Dominic's child is most likely going to be right-handed. However, he is more likely to be left-handed than other children since Dominic is left-handed. But if Dominic's child is forced or influenced to use a certain hand, it can develop to be his dominant hand. In other words, Dominic's child will most likely be genetically influenced to be right-handed, although he has a slight chance of being left-handed. But as always with handedness, nature can overrule his handedness if Dominic decides to influence his child to be left-handed.
And that is it. Thank you.